Agenda 2063 is Africa's strategic blueprint aimed at transforming the continent into a global powerhouse. This master plan focuses on achieving inclusive and sustainable development, embodying the Pan-African vision of unity, self-determination, freedom, progress, and collective prosperity. It reflects the ideals of Pan-Africanism and the African Renaissance. The inception of Agenda 2063 was driven by African leaders' recognition of the need to shift the continent's focus. In a show of commitment to this new direction, African heads of state signed the 15th anniversary Solemn Declaration during the AU's Golden Jubilee celebrations in May 2013. This declaration reaffirmed their dedication to achieving a Pan-African vision of a united, prosperous, and peaceful Africa driven by its citizens and playing a significant role in global affairs. Agenda 2063 outlines the continent's vision for the next 50 years from 2013 to 2063 as articulated by former African Union Commission Chair Dr. Dlamini Zuma. Envisioning a long-term development path is crucial in light of ongoing structural transformations, rising peace, diminishing conflicts, renewed economic growth, and the need for people-centered development, gender equality, and youth empowerment. Changing global dynamics such as increased globalization, the ICT revolution, and Africa's emerging unity further necessitate this agenda. Opportunities in sectors like agribusiness, infrastructure, health, education, and value addition to African communities underscore its significance. Agenda 2063 encapsulates Africa's aspirations while identifying flagship programs designed to accelerate economic growth and catalyze transformation. African leaders convene annually to address key continental issues. This past week, heads of state and government gathered at African Union headquarters for the 38th African Union Assembly teamed building a united front to advance the cause of justice and reparations. This team highlighted urgent need for collective action among African nations to confront historical injustice and seek reparations. In his keynote address, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, emphasized that reparations are a matter of justice, not charity, and called for united efforts in this pursuit and stressed the importance of solidarity in advancing for justice and accountability and recognizing the need for healing in affected communities as a vital step forward. PM Abiy said the theme for this year's assembly calls on us to heal the scare of historical injustice and overcome the lingering trauma that had longer hindered our progress.
The demand for reparations is not about charity or financial aid. It is a call for justice. It seeks to restore the dignity of millions and heal the deep scars of poverty, inequality, and discrimination. It demands an end to the systematic exploitation of our wealth, resources, and opportunities. It also calls for a transformative process that acknowledges past harms and takes bold steps to right the wrongs caused upon us, upon society across the continent. Thank you. Thank you. Most importantly, the call for reparations requires not just words, but concrete actions to affirm the equal worth of every human being.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for urgency to push in place a reparatory justice framework to heal historical grievance of the people of Africa and their descendants.
Colonialism and slavery are growing louder, as reflected in your theme this year, and as reflected in the leadership of so many passionate voices for the liberation of Africa, such as the great Dr. Sam Nujoma of Namibia, whose life we celebrate and whose loss we mourn. The world must never forget that Africa is the victim of two colossal and compounded injustices. First, the profound impact of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. The roots stretch back centuries, and the bitter fruit continues to affect Africans and people of African descent to this day. Decolonization alone in itself was not a panacea. Political independence did not free countries from structures based on exploitation and decades of economic, social, and institutional underinvestment. It is high time for reparatory justice frameworks to be put in place.
Dlamini Zuma, former chairperson of African Union Commission, said Africans should united more than ever not to repeat historical injustice and claim continental prosperity.
If we are strong at home as a continent, we will be able to exert that in the global arena. So we need to be united, to be prosperous, and to be influential in the global arena. Women, youth, everyone must be skilled, must be allowed to innovate, to create, and that way I should be able to, since I live in South Africa, I should be able to come on a high-speed train to Ethiopia.
AU member states should have a unified front in international forums, reinforcing their shared commitment to justice. The involvement of civil society, victims, and grassroots movement was deemed essential in reparations dialogue, ensuring all voices contribute to the quest for justice.
It's very important to recognize how significant it is to work together towards reparations. The first thing I would say is that self-reparations is most important than anything, and that's repairing relations and Africans in the diaspora working together in order to achieve common objectives. So the Center for Global Africa is at the forefront of that work in terms of bridging Africans and the diaspora. And just recently, one of our most historic events was receiving a presidential pardon for Marcus Garvey by President Joseph R. Biden. That happened last month in January 19th. So that's an important historic accomplishment that we're looking now to leverage as a bridge, because Marcus Garvey was a Pan-Africanist visionary whose ideas were even primary to the founding of the original Organization of African Unity. So we're looking to bring 21st century continuity to his ideas, to his designs.
A united front to advance the cause of justice through reparation. How does these two align together?
Well, absolutely they align, because it gives us the opportunity to have a common platform to create this global agenda that's necessary, as I said, in this bridging of Africa and the diaspora. So we need to create programs that are going to bring visibility to the idea, as well as putting the resources behind the programs that are going to allow us to concretize and bring into operation the kinds of programs that are going to matter, so that the ideas that we have about reparations can become more transformative.
The theme for this year, and really charged by the call to action and the message that we heard from Prime Minister Mia Mottley this morning, which was really appropriate. It spoke to the work that we have to do to unite not just Africa, but really to unite throughout the sixth region, including the Caribbean and the United States. And so the Center for Global Africa, we've already started that work. We have been working throughout the U.S., of course, but also in the Caribbean through our partnership with the Marcus Garvey Institute for Human Development, and working very closely with Dr. Julius Garvey. So this really provides a great platform for us to continue this work, and as we return to the U.S., build stronger relationships and connections with our sister and brother organizations located throughout North America, but also other parts of the sixth region.
One of the flagship projects of Agenda 2063 is African Continental Free Trade Area, approved during the 18th ordinary session of the Assembly of Head of State and Governments in Finfinne in January 2012. The African Continental Free Trade Area aims to boost intra-Africa trade and enhance Africa's position in the global market by strengthening its collective voice in trade negotiation. Chief Executive Officer of African Electronics Trade Group, Mulalam Siyum, said the implementation of African Continental Free Trade Area is well underway.
The African Union and member states through the African Union making a decision, and the challenge is how do we implement those decisions? And the AA Trade Group is ensuring that the implementation of the decisions, and as the ASEFTA, that to operationalize at the grassroots level is a critical role that AA Trade Group will play in the implementation of ensuring that boosting inter-Africa trade. It is a process. The ASEFTA has come up a number of decision ratifications. So last year, one of them, which is very relevant for us, is the digital inclusion. And because of that ratification, now the digitalizations and digital trade is emerged, and we are in the operation of that. We will be very happy that to the willingness to work with regional governments, particularly on job creations, and we will continue to discuss. And it is a process, and as our operations are here for the region, for East Africa, but it is very important also to work with local government, particularly with Oromia regional government, as well as with Amara regional government. As you see, this just only the meeting that has started about at 7:30 this morning, just to finish, is the alliance of the multilateral investment for the continent. It is the pivotal role A-Trade also bringing, the Africa Strategic Investment Alliance, and working together with AAMFI, which is the African Alliance multilateral institutions, working with them basically to mobilize resources to support businesses, infrastructure, and particularly in our operations are focusing on small business, and this is really in action. All the African Union decision is being made, but resource mobilization is the key to execute the operation of those decisions.
Agenda 2063 is executed with the help of development partners, and NEPAD is one of them. Nardos Bakala Thomas, Chief Executive Officer of NEPAD, emphasized that NEPAD is a key development agency for the African Union.
Well, first of all, the NEPAD is principle. It's the guiding principle. It's a new partnership for African development. It's our guiding principle. But the agency's name is actually the African Union Development Agency that operates with the principle of the new partnership for African development. So, it's the African Union Development Agency, which is created to coordinate all development activities in the continent to make sure that these development activities and development support is impactful and effective and really bears results for Africans. The second thing is implementing and executing all the flagship programs for Africa in terms of infrastructure, agriculture, industrialization, climate change, and environment sustainability. So this is a big and human capital. This is a huge multitude and multifaceted and multidimensional and multi-sectoral program that we have in terms of responding to Africa's problem. And this is contained within the context of the Vision 2063, our blueprint for Africa, and its 10-year implementation plan. And we have just completed the first 10-year implementation plan. It's been reviewed, and then based on the review, then we have developed and designed the second 10-year implementation plan, which we are implementing with moonshots, 7 moonshots, and a very ambitious plan. And within that context, we have also developed a continent-wide monitoring and evaluation framework that would see that there is a transparent but also an effective way of delivering results for Africans, and also a dashboard where each country, member country, could go in and report on the progress they have made on this plan. And these all as an interface, a technical interface of the African Union. We've been developing all these mechanisms and systems to make sure that coordination takes place in effect.
NEPAD is collaborating with regional economic communities across Africa to advance the goals of Agenda 2063.
And now, talking about the coordination aspect of it, we have got, as you know, the regional economic communities. We have got 8 of them, and these regional economic communities are also working with us as a team, and we call ourselves the Africa team. So AUDA, the 8 regional economic communities, the African CDC, the African Free Trade Secretariat, the now already established the African Medicine Agency, APRM, and others, all of us together, we count ourselves as a team in terms of delivering, the already stipulated objectives of the 10-year implementation plan. So that is part of the coordination. And now, as the African Union Development Agency, it's now evident that we cannot operate from Midrand, from South Africa, and cover the entire continent. So we are opening also offices in the various countries.
NEPAD is focused on generating finance by proposing a development fund for the second 10-year implementation plan.
In order to do all these, and meet the challenges, especially in terms of financing, as the 10-year implementation, the second 10-year implementation plan has a gap of $3.3 trillion. In order to cover that, we're developing also a development fund that will complement the MDBs, the multilateral development banks, funding and financing that exists. So these are the things that we're doing. As you know, we were here just in December for the PIDA week. That is the infrastructure. Infrastructure is a very important, foundational thing for any transformation. So we've been here to really have deals with the private sector, the financing institution, and member states to make sure that infrastructure is built. When we talk about infrastructure, it's not only roads, it's not only railways, but it's also digital infrastructure, it's also the irrigation in terms of the agriculture, it's also the infrastructure that we need for the industrialization, which is the whole economic zones that we would like to put in place. So all this together, is under our, responsibility. And our role is not funding or constructing. Our role is really making sure that we have projects that are bankable, that, investors can come and invest. And we're shifting our way of doing from really that development that way we know it, where we would beg for money, spend wherever they want us to spend, to really have our priorities set and do feasibility studies and make sure investors come. So it's an investable program that we are putting in place for private sector to thrive. But private sector to thrive, when we say normally at this point in time, we do not have the private sector, that big private sector, in the continent that could do these huge infrastructure programs, and therefore we are again going to the West for them to come and invest. So to change that, we have also been very, very, very clear that we need to build our private sector. And we have got the 100 million MSMEs program using the AI technologies, the blockchains and whatever, and trying to really empower them and making sure that we get the financing for these private sector to grow, to graduate from being micro to medium to large scale, so that they would be adventuring in these huge infrastructure programs that we're putting in place.
The African Continental Free Trade Area AFCFTA is progressing well, and NEPAD is actively working on assessing the status of infrastructure connectivity, industrialization, and workforce development across the continent.
The AFCFTA is actually putting in place all the political, the protocols, the policies, the regulatory frameworks for the African free trade to happen. What we are doing in conjunction with that is making sure that the infrastructure is built, that the industrialization thrives, meaning that we need to add value. You cannot trade unless there is a product. Right now, the basket of products that we have for trade within African countries is small, and we need to enlarge it. And how do we do it? By making sure that we are adding value, by making sure that we are supporting our manufacturing industries, by making sure that our minerals are beneficiated. So, the mineral beneficiation, the value addition, the value in supply chain, the forward and backward linkages, all these things are things that we do. And that's where the 100 million MSMEs is placed. That is where the whole homegrown solutions are placed. That's where innovation as an enabler is being supported, and therefore it's really a comprehensive one. And that's where we have got, from the human capital perspective, the skills development, the skills revolution that we are introducing, and we are putting a lot of emphasis on skills. And we are building capacities of institutions that provide skills to not only MSMEs, but also institutions that really train the young ones in terms of developing their skills. So, all this is a package thing, and one is interlinked with the other, and we cannot separate it. And to this, we add also, a human being for the young ones to be a good entrepreneur, or for any industry, any socioeconomic development, we need good health. So health security is very important, food security is very important, and all these are under the responsibility of the African Union Development Agency. And we're not doing it in a vacuum, we're not doing it in a silo, we're doing it with all partners that are there. And therefore, we're not crowding out anyone, but we are crowding in to make an effective contribution and for impactful results.
Dr. Dlamini Zuma also highlighted the necessity of continental unity for achieving prosperity, urging all nations to work collaboratively towards realizing Agenda 2063.
I think it's very important for all the countries to integrate Agenda 2063 into their national plans, so that it's not a standalone by the way program, but it's integrated into the national plans. And that way, we'll all be able to implement it simultaneously. But it's also important to change our mindset as Africans, because Agenda 2063 is about saying we are Africans, we are one continent, we need to develop economically together, we need to invest in our young people together, we need to be a global player together, not as small little countries. So we must also just deal with our mindset. You must stop calling yourself Ethiopian. I must stop calling myself South African. I'm an African born in South Africa or living in South Africa. We are an African living in Ethiopia. So that will begin to change our mindset about who we are and begin to tell the world and ourselves that we are actually a continent that must grow together. The other thing is we have accepted the African Continental Free Trade. But the African Continental Free Trade cannot succeed if, one, we don't manufacture We can't manufacture if we don't have energy. Of course, Ethiopia has plenty of energy with your Renaissance dam, but all of us must have energy because energy is the lifeline of industry, right? Then we must also feed ourselves. There's no continent that can grow if it can't feed itself. We must grow what we consume what we grow as a continent. We must, and that is not difficult because if you look at the available land for agriculture in the world, 60% of it is in this continent. So we could feed the continent and even help feed the world. We must also make sure that our most precious resource, which is the people, we invest in them. First, we must invest in everybody. Women must be skilled in every area of human endeavor. There must be no area where you can say, oh no, this is not for women. In every area of human endeavor. But it's important to take advantage of our youth bulge because we have the greatest number of young people in the world. And by 2050, the majority of young people will be on this continent. Can you imagine if we skill all those young people and they will be creating jobs, they will be innovating, they will be business people, and also we need to be connected. We need to be connected by infrastructure, transport infrastructure, road, rail, sea, and air. Ethiopia is doing well on air. Others must do the same, even on sea and so on. But energy infrastructure also, ICT infrastructure must connect us. And once we are connected through infrastructure, it means what we manufacture can move freely across the continent. People and goods must be able to. We must also look at our financial systems. We can't all be paying through the dollar. Why can't we have a system where we pay through our own currencies? And eventually maybe have a common currency. Why not? These are all the things that I think our ancestors, our forebears wanted to see. And if we then are able to do all these things, we'll have a single common market. Our economy could even be the biggest economy in the world. And we'll be a big global player. And we must stop thinking that someone is going to come and develop us. We must take that out of our mind. There's no country that has developed another.